We got shirts on sale. Express your love for the evolutions and the new channel rebrand with an evolution t-shirt and hoodie. On sale now. Also, if you like anime, go check out our anime channel MysticSage for awesome anime content. And be sure to follow me on social media so you can stay caught up with the channels and me. Links will be in the description below. There has been one definite constant throughout the Pokemon games, with the exception of Yellow and the Let's Go games, and that is that you're given the choice of a starter Pokemon from the Water, Grass, or Fire typings. Well, today, I'm going to be ranking those Fire type lines from weakest to strongest, in my opinion, of course. Now, things are a little complicated because you just don't have access to every starter line in Sword and Shield, and if I'm going to talk about Cinderace's line, I'll need to bring up the 8th generation. Since that is the case, I'm just going to do my best to talk about Pokemon in regards to their latest appearance in the franchise. Starting things off, the line I believe to be the worst of the fire types is Johto's Typhlosion line. Now don't get me wrong here, I do have a lot of love for this line, and especially for the absolutely adorable Kalava. It's a bit of an unfortunate case for the Typhlosion line, as until Cinderace showed up, it was the only line that was pure fire type. That might seem like it puts them in line to be a very respectable group of Pokemon, but in terms of being competitively good or even just nice to use in a playthrough, they're quite lackluster. Just because you're sticking entirely to your one typing doesn't make you good, and in fact puts you at a distinct disadvantage when compared to your counterparts. Being that there is no second bit of stab for Typhlosion to lean back on, it is forced to rely on its stab and move pool. Typhlosion isn't exactly struggling in the stats department, having a base 109 special attack stat. It backs that up with a base 100 speed, but compared to what its contemporaries achieve with their stat speeds, it's a tad bit pathetic. It really doesn't have the best move pool, at least of leveling up. At level 20 it gets Flame Wheel, and at 35 Flame Charge, though they're not special type moves. It isn't until level 43 that Typhlosion will finally learn a stab special move in Lava Plume, and at that point it feels like a lot of time has been wasted, and it really solidifies Typhlosion as being the bottom of the fire type starter's barrel. Following Typhlosion is the Delphox line, and you guys already know just how much I hate Delphox. I may enjoy Fennekin, but that doesn't save this line from finding itself this low in the rankings. Honestly, had Typhlosion been anything but pure fire, I'd happily put Delphox down as the worst. However, thanks to its psychic typing, it got lucky, and I ended up including it as the second worst instead. Just going by design, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I absolutely hate Delphox. How can you go from being a cute little fox to this absolute abomination? It's just a disappointment, and it doesn't help that Delphox has an awful learn set as well. Delphox has some decent stats on the special side with 114 in special attack and 100 in special defense, along with 100 base speed. However, like I said, those moves it learns by level up aren't special. It doesn't get Flamethrower until level 45, or Psychic until level 57. That is just so awful, and quite frankly ridiculous. Could you imagine having a Pokemon that doesn't get two of the absolute most useful moves of its typing? I definitely can't, and that's why I never would want to have to use Delphox in any sort of playthrough I'm doing. I already don't like X and Y very much, and this just continues my bad relationship with those games. Following Delphox up is our first firefighting typing, Univa's Emboar line. Emboar is an interesting case, as I really do enjoy Tepig, and think Emboar itself is alright, especially that dope shiny. However, I can't begin to express the burning hatred I have for Pig Knight, no pun intended. It's so incredibly ugly, and I wish it could do something to look a little less awful. Unfortunately, however, there isn't anything that can be done at this point, and we'll have to live with this disastrous looking Pokemon forever. When compared to the Blaziken and Infernape lines, Emboar is such a disappointment. Its stats err on the side of being obviously offensive, with that 125 attack stat standing out alongside its pretty good 100 special attack and 110 base HP. However, those stats don't really do Emboar many favors in the long run. Once again, we're facing down a Pokemon with a pretty disappointing learn set, only getting a good physically attacking fire type move at level 62, that being Flare Blitz. The only good fighting type move it will learn actually on its own is Hammer Arm, and it's debatable if that's even all that good or not, considering the fact that it's going to lower an already poor 65 base speed. There's a handful of decent TMs out there that you can give to Emboar to turn it into an either decent special or physical attacker. However, there just isn't much you can do to save it from its awful speed and horrible defenses. There was a lot of potential for a Pokemon like Emboar, but from its stats to its final design, the ball was dropped super hard. Closing out the weaker half of this list is Incineroar from Sun and Moon. I actually really like this Pokemon line, more than the 3 that came before it. Litten is yet another very adorable basic Pokemon, and as it grows into Incineroar, it goes from cute to awesome. I didn't like Incineroar very much when Sun and Moon first dropped, but as time went on, I ended up growing to like it more and more, especially thanks to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Incineroar is the first Pokemon on this list so far to actually be obtainable in Sword and Shield too, one of just a very few. This line is a bit more balanced than the other ones that came before it, having a clear-cut standout stat with base 115 attack. While it is lacking in speed at base 60, its defenses are both base 90, and it has a base 95 HP stat as well. All in all, from a competitive standpoint, Incineroar isn't all that bad. So after a rather short discussion about Incineroar, we move on to the better half of the list, starting with Infernape. As you guys know, Infernape is my favorite fully evolved fire starter, so it got a ton of bonus points just for that. Aside from me liking it so much, it just really packs a powerful punch in battle, and that pun was fully intended. Infernape's hidden ability is Iron Fist, and with that, you're able to run a great set with Mach Punch, Drain Punch, Fire Punch, and Thunder Punch, or whatever physical move you want to run with it. Infernape works with a 108 speed stat and an attack stat of 104, so it's able to get the jump on opponents easily in battle depending on if the correct investments are put into it. The Infernape line is just so seriously cool in concept and design, though they're of course not perfect. Being that Infernape is one of the trio of fighting/fire type starters that we got from Gen 3 through 5, it has to contend with some bad weaknesses. The flying and ground types will wreak havoc on Infernape, and of course psychic and water types as well. Its defenses and HP are all in the mid to late 70s at their base, and that's just not very good. However, it's got access to a lot of good coverage moves like I spoke about earlier, a few of the elemental punches, and it of course gets access to some great stab moves like Close Combat and Flare Blitz eventually at level 68. This is actually a rather common theme, with a lot of these starters not getting their best possible moves until they're at an incredibly high level. Either way, Infernape is a really good Pokemon that unfortunately is the Vegeta to Blaziken's Goku, as it obviously ranks higher on this list as a firefighting type. Following on Infernape is the quintessential fire starter itself, the Charizard line. I obviously like this line a bit, and I understand how much it means to the franchise. Charizard is not a Pokemon that has ever really been ignored, getting to enjoy much of the new mechanics introduced every generation. It has 2 different Mega Evolutions, and of course it is able to Gigantamax in Sword and Shield. I ended up ranking it ahead of Infernape because of just how many powerful forms it has access to, and due to the all-around decent stats it has. Charizard has a base 109 special attack, which is the highest of its base stat totals, but it maintains a very decent 85 special defense and 100 speed that actually works alongside lower totals in physical attack and defense and HP. It's also sort of impressive just how good Charizard can be in its many iterations, and just how awesome it looks. I mean, just look at Mega Charizard X and the G-Max form. They're both so cool looking. Getting to see Charizard's palette swap from red and orange to blue and black is something that many Pokemon fans adore. And on top of that, watching it become super gigantic and almost Endeavor-like is about just as cool when it Gigantamaxes. It even has some fantastic moves that it gets at decent levels, like Air Slash right when it first evolves and Flamethrower, which it gets at level 30 as a Charmeleon. Honestly, Charizard is just such a good Pokemon and easily could have an argument made for it to be top 2 or even number 1, but a few things do hold it back. For one, that 78 base defense just isn't gonna cut it when you're a Pokemon that is 4 times weak to rock, and just switching in with it when there are Stealth Rocks set up will cut its health right in half. There's a lot of great things when it comes to Charizard, but too many detracting factors that keep it where it is in the rankings. We move on now to the Cinderace line, which are of course the most recent fire starters in the Pokemon games. Cinderace is a very cool Pokemon, both in design and of course competitively. You guys know I absolutely love this line, and it was my first choice when Sword and Shield first came out. So I guess you could say I'm definitely showing a little tiny bit of bias by putting them up here in the penultimate slot in the rankings. However, even without the incredible admiration I have for this line, Cinderace proves itself to be an extremely formidable Pokemon on the field. It takes that soccer influence to heart with its signature move Pyro Ball, which has 120 base power and has a chance to burn the opponent. Albeit there is only 90% accuracy on the move, that isn't a lot of risk involved and that extremely high reward that can come from using this move. With how good Cinderace is, there are a few things that keep it from being the best among the fire starters. Its HP stat along with both of its defenses aren't super high, and with it being a pure fire type, it doesn't have access to any stab outside of its fire type moves, despite a relatively diverse learn set. If there was another typing tacked on with fire, Cinderace might be able to hold its own against a few Pokemon that would have its number, like Seismitoad. Regardless though, Cinderace is really darn good, especially considering it's the most recent addition to the pantheon of fire starters. It's going to be getting a Gigantamax form in the new DLC for Sword and Shield as well, and don't forget that its new hidden ability Libero is coming soon, and that can very well give it an edge over the number 1. I also wanted to mention that court change with a combination of the heavy duty boots is such a flex on your opponent. They take ages setting up rocks, 3 spikes, 2 toxic spikes, webs and screens, and you just swap everything, taking their screens and also giving them hazards. It's a pretty busted set. Finally, we reach what I consider to be the best fire type starter, the Blaziken line. This one was super easy to decide on, as even with my previous hit for Blaziken being so broken, I knew it just had to be at the top of things. I like Blaziken's design a lot too, and even Combusken considering how wildly inappropriate it looks. Though the fact that it sits atop all the other starters is simply due to just how powerful it is. Blaziken is so good that in the 6th and 7th generations, it was thrown into Ubers without even taking its Mega Evolution into account. Blaziken makes use of the hidden ability Speed Boost, which ups its speed by a stage at the end of each turn. Keep in mind, Blaziken's speed is only base 80, but if you have one at level 100, fully invested of IVs and EVs in this speed, it will have a speed somewhere in the mid 200s, and this one Speed Boost will already have it outspeeding almost every other Pokemon. Then when you Mega Evolve it, it becomes even more terrifying with its base speed shooting up to 100, and its base attack going from 120 to 160. Though Mega Evolution isn't available in Generation 8, I'm just saying that its Mega Evolution makes it incredibly busted. Some of the best moves of its typing are also available to Blaziken, including Flare Blitz and High Jump Kick, and there are some great setup moves like Swords Dance and Home Claws as well. Competitively, Blaziken isn't just the best of all the fire starters, but it's one of the best Pokemon in the entire Gen 7 metagame. I really hope we see it make an appearance in Sword and Shield at some point, because an absolute monster like this deserves to return. Well, that's gonna wrap things up for this ranking video. I really like how it came out, and while I needed to switch between talking about Gen 7 and Gen 8 due to availability issues, I still think everything came out rather clear and concise. Though I need to know what you guys think. Do you agree with me that Blaziken is the best of the bunch? Are you perhaps surprised to see Cinderace so high? Possibly you're also a really big Typhlosion fan that is ending things a bit disappointed. I want to hear from you, so let me know what you think about my rankings and what yours are as well. If you enjoyed the video, why not leave a like and subscribe to my channel with notifications on, that way you never miss an upload. If you want to support me further, consider following my Twitch where I stream a lot of Pokemon content and all kinds of other Nintendo content like Zelda, Fire Emblem, and much more. Also, I've been reviewing every episode of My Hero Academia Season 4 over on MysticSage, so head over there if you're into that too. I would love that a lot. Want to support me further and gain cool perks? Check out my Patreon. Daniel Leone, Lady Crimson, Memory Martin, The Lazy Leo, Matthew Young, Awesome Lego, Jarrett Weiss Austin, Sodden Grider, Nigma97, and Kermit117 did, and I want to thank them personally for going above and beyond. It means the world to me. I think I'm gonna wrap this up though. I'm Mr. Gumbrand, and I will see you in the future for more awesome Pokemon content.